started. Once again, my name is Maya. I'm the owner of the BAAP Boutique, and I'm sitting here with Ruth E. Carter, two-time Ruth, two-time Academy Award winner for the movies Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and she was just recently nominated for Sinners. Most nominated Black woman in Oscar history. She has broken glass ceilings and continues to pave the way for future generations. So give it up one more time for Ruth. So you've spoken about drawing inspiration from Langston Hughes, Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez. How has poetry and prose inspired you as a costume designer?
Well, I was in a lot of like after school programs. I was in one called Uhuru Sasa, and that meant Freedom Now. At Amherst College in Massachusetts, I was in Upward Bound. I was in, so my mother, every summer, she was sticking me in some kind of camp, Boys and Girls Club. And in those programs, we would have, what we call spoken word now. We'd have programs, and I loved reciting poetry. So I would, recite all kinds of poetry in front of people. We would have programs, and I could actually, see the images that Langston Hughes talked about, or Nikki Giovanni, or I was inspired by their words, and it kind of fueled my desire to be in theater arts. It wasn't costume design. I wanted to actually perform. So I remember a poem by Sonia Sanchez called "I'm Gonna Take Me Seriously." I'm gonna recite it for you. You wanna hear it?
Yes.
I'm gonna take me seriously now. Have taken children, parents, friends, poets seriously, have known the cracker to be seriously dangerous, have taken daytime, nighttime rhetoric seriously, and been wounded by lovers of slick black rapping, in blacker words, pimps and jivers. I'm gonna be serious about me and study myself. Get a PhD in Ruth Carter and dare anybody to be an authority on me. 'Cause I'll be wounded with Ruth's beauty, learning, love, and will be dangerous, all things considered. Gonna be serious about me and live. That's what inspired me.
Very inspirational. That was wonderful. I did it. That was a pleasant surprise, and I love Sonia Sanchez. She's one of my favorite, along with Maya Angelou. I was named after her, and Nikki Giovanni. So poetry is definitely the inspiration behind that. Beautiful, well recited. I did read that you you were in theater first. And initially, your family, you went to Hampton University for special education, and then you got into theater, and then your professor, you didn't make the cut, and then your professor said, well, why don't you make costume design? And so those are just instances where life kind of changes, sometimes for the better, most of the times for the better, and kind of propels us. What we think is failure propels us into our journey. Yeah. So your career spans major period films: Malcolm X, The Five Heartbeats, What's Love Got to Do with It, Ty Cobb, Roots, Amistad, Dolomite Is My Name, Marshall, Selma, Lee Daniels The Butler, Teen Beach Movie, Sparkle, Frankie and Alice, Black Dynamite, Summer of Sam, and Rosewood.
You forgot Baby Boy.
Oh yeah, Baby Boy. It was in my next question. We have to rep Baby Boy because we're in the community. It's coming though. So how did these projects shape you both as an artist and a historian?
I loved Black history. I loved telling the story of our journey. And when I first started with Spike Lee back in the, well, okay, before some of you were born. But in the late 80s, I started in 89. He really didn't see representation on screen, so that was his main objective, to show true representation of his community, of our community, on screen. And so, because when I went to Hampton, I was into the history. So I studied, like, because we're in Virginia, and my family was from Virginia, and I really wanted to know more about myself. You know, I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd say, how did I get this light skin and these green eyes? I need to find out more about myself here in Virginia. And so when I found out there were Carter plantations around Virginia, that Virginia was one of the biggest states where they had like mixed race. And I thought, wow, so that was my origin story. And I would dig deeper and deeper. So once I got together with Spike, and he said, we have to tell more of our stories, and I was on a project like with him, like Malcolm X, you know, it propelled me to be as authentic as I could. So I'm in New York City. I'm near the Schomburg Center for Research. I'm at the best libraries and bookstores like in the country, and it was a plethora of things for me to research. I did Rosewood with John Singleton, and I studied James Vanderzee and Teenie Harris and Gordon Parks. And all of a sudden, I realized that I had a mission, not only to put representation, contemporary representation in front of the screen, also to show our past, to shape what we don't get in school in Black history. You know, our past didn't start with being enslaved. We actually are from Africa. And so when fast forward, when I met Ryan Coogler, he loved Spike Lee joints. He was an admirer of Spike Lee, and I felt like I had something to offer. And we put together Black Panther because I realized it wasn't just about creating a super suit. It was a superhero for our community, and we had to create a world. The world was Wakanda. So everything started to make sense, that there was a purpose to my work as a costume designer.
So as your work moved from historical storytelling into imagining Black futures, Afrofuturism became a guiding visual language in how you build worlds, as you said, through costume and design. In Wakanda, you blended multiple African cultures, ancient techniques, and futuristic technology. How do you balance being authentic with the past stories and imagining the future?
Okay, how many of you seen Black Panther? And how many of you seen it multiple times? Yeah. Okay, great. So you know that you know what Afrofuture is. How many of you have heard of vibranium? Yeah, you know it's not real, right? Okay. So we had to take a real place like Africa and blend it with a futuristic idea. And that was the ability to mine vibranium. So Afrofuture is really taking African culture or the past and blending it with technology and creating a story. And so Ryan Coogler was a master at creating the story of the Black Panther, played by the late Chadwick Boseman, and in Wakanda Forever, Letitia Wright as the Black Panther. And so what we tried to hold on to was culture. So there are many cultures represented in Black Panther. And for me, it was my challenge when the Panther was walking through the royal throne room or through Wakanda, that his Panther suit actually connect to Africa. Because I was like, how is this king of Wakanda going to walk through with a cat suit on? How does that connect? So we formed a little triangle, which is, as you'll see on the spine of the book, and we called it the Okavango Triangle, which represents the Okavango River, you know, that travels up the coast of Africa. And we printed it all over the suit. So when you look in the book, you'll see this triangle that's printed all over the suit. And then he has like a veining line that goes around the suit. It veins all over. And we did tribal markings and Wakandan language, you know, that said things like honor and pride and, you know, Wakanda forever. And so I felt like when I combined the triangle with the tribal markings, we were making like an Ankara fabric, an Ankara print. And that really, for me, connected the African aesthetic of which we have the Himba tribe represented, the Tuareg represented, the Jabari were the Dogon tribe. So we were inspired by real tribes. And the Panther suit is also inspired by real things. And that's how I balanced past, present, and future. Y'all can clap.
Very intentional. You were also intentional about making Zamunda visually distinct from Wakanda. You said you would remind teens this is not coming to America and this is not Black Panther. What were the core visual rules you created in separating those worlds, making them apart from one another?
You know, it was really hard, really. Coming to America is a beloved film in our community. I mean, we dressed up to go see that. So when we got Black Panther, it wasn't a proven film, you know, and it was actually hard to hold crews together. We were not known. If you followed the comics, you knew who the Black Panther was, but for the most part, everybody was excited to see Zamunda, and I was like, no, please, this is not The Lion King, nor is it coming to America. We really were doing something a little more serious. It wasn't a comedy, and like I'll take the Dora Milaje, for example, like the highest ranking female fighting force in Wakanda, they protect the king. So with that definition, you're not going to make something like that's walking down Hollywood Boulevard, you know. Ryan really wanted a serious uniform. He wanted them to have martial art boots, split toe boots, and he was serious about it. And we did, you can travel all around the continent of Africa on that one costume. We have the Indabele rings on their necks, and we gold plated and silver plated them so they would look like jewelry. You have their Turkana represented in the beadwork that goes on this harness, this leather harness that travels around the Dora Milaje's costumes. When you look at that costume, you'll see so much representation. The color, the Maasai color, that strong red. I really made the red even more stronger than it was illustrated because I wanted them to feel imposing. So when you saw two Dora Milaje, it felt like 10. Because we only had enough money to like make 20 of those costumes, but they tiled them and made them look like there were more. So, what was your question?
I think you answered
Okay,
it. How distinct you made the worlds from one another.
Oh, right. So Zamunda. So when I got Eddie Murphy's film, everybody was excited that I had done Black Panther. So I was like, this is not Black Panther. This is now coming to America, and it's more a comedy. I didn't use a lot of Ankara fabrics in Black Panther because the Ankara came from the Dutch, and and Wakanda was a place before colonization. So I didn't want to use Ankara fabrics, even though I talked about the Panther suit having those two different textures. So that's really, and the shapes were much bigger in Coming to America than they were in Wakanda. So I took more of like a realistic approach to Wakanda and more of a surrealistic approach to Coming to America 2, and it was an opportunity to kind of really have fun and play with the characters and the comedy.
I thought it was really hilarious. I could just hear your voice, like just telling them, no, this is not. That was really good. So you worked with Spike Lee and John Singleton on films like Do the Right Thing, filmed in Brooklyn, and Baby Boy, which was filmed here in the Crenshaw district. You guys can clap. Both rooted in the everyday realities of Black communities. Did you find their approaches to telling authentic stories similar, or did each director shape the visual storytelling in different ways?
Yeah, I think that similarities in that Do the Right Thing, we showed Brooklyn. Baby Boy, we showed LA. I don't really sometimes like to say South Central. I think it's in Los Angeles. And also, John, rest in peace, gone too soon. He really admired Spike Lee films. So again, I worked with a graduate of USC and made a film, about his reality. And I think that's what the similarity is. That was Spike Lee's reality to do the right thing. He wanted to do a protest film. He wanted to make a difference, and I feel like John Singleton did as well. So, I lived here, and I bounced back and forth between LA and New York for like 14 years. And I really did love my community on both coasts, and knew that I could be a voice through or a vehicle through these brilliant filmmakers, Spike Lee, John Singleton, Robert Townsend. I did Black Dynamite. Did anybody see that film? Black Dynamite, we shot that all around here. So I just was I loved costume design, and I loved the representation.
In your recent film, Sinners, Michael B. Jordan played twin brothers, Smoke and Stack. Did you notice the shift in how he embodied each character when he stepped into their costumes before the film?
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan, my job is hard, isn't it? Oh, you gotta feel sorry for me. Yes, 2 Michael B. Jordans in one film. Oh, yeah, he embodied them. He's so instinctual as an actor. He knew exactly how he was going to play them. The brothers Stack had red. That was given to me as a directive from Ryan Coogler. One was going to be red, the other was going to be blue. But the way that Michael B. Jordan played Stack was a little bit more to the body. He was a ladies' man. He had gold teeth. He wore a collar bar, a tie bar, cufflinks. You know that guy. And Smoke, his brother, was kind of like, he was every man. He had a denim cap. He wore his coat a little bit bigger because he had a holster with 2 guns under his arms. So you couldn't give it away. He wanted to hide that behind his coat. Back then, everybody, in the 1920s, everybody carried something, a weapon of some kind. And so we were hiding all of those things under his body. Michael talks about when he was Stack, his shoe was a half size smaller. So when you hear that, it was not a half size smaller. I would not give an actor a shoe that's too small. That'll work for one take, and every take after that, they'd be miserable. His shoe was Italian. So it was more narrow, and it fit his character. Smoke's shoe was a boot, so it had a bigger squared toe box. So he naturally said, when he put on that shoe, and he bounced back and forth all day long, changing his clothes from one character to the next. So when he put that Italian shoe on, he was like, this shoe is a half size too small. But it was just because it was a narrow cut.
Michael B. Jordan, if you are watching, Ruth is here to set the record straight on the shoe. So you spoke spoken about your identity being wrapped in your mother's story and her courage. How did her life shape your path as an artist?
My mom, she pushed a sewing machine in my room. I didn't know it was a sewing machine. It looked like a desk. It looked like a wooden desk. And I would, do my homework on this thing. I would draw, because two of my brothers are artists, and I would copy their stuff. I had a desk in my room. And I opened up that desk one day. I opened up the big leaflet, Have you ever seen one of them? They're old. I lifted up the leaflet and looked inside and pulled up a sewing machine. And I said, I'm going to learn how to use this. And inside the little drawers on the side were Singer sewing patterns. Those things are so hard to read. But I taught myself how to sew. And one item that I made was a patchwork denim blazer. It wasn't tailored, but I used the patterns and I cut it out. And after it was so hard, I went up in the attic, where all clothes go that nobody wants anymore. And I got a bunch of jeans and I opened them up and I made this patchwork denim jacket. And my next door neighbor, Tommy, he wanted that jacket. I gave it to Tommy. I didn't want to wear it after I made it. I don't know why. And I gave it to Tommy, and I would see Tommy coming and going in that jacket, and I was like so proud, like he was wearing it and loving it. And I think it motivated me to like make other stuff because I was successful and somebody liked my work. So by the time I got to college, when I was asked by my professor if I wanted to do the costumes for a play, I had my experience at home, and I felt I could do this because I'd already kind of gotten into textile art, wearable art, and I'd been drawing with my brothers, and I went to the library and I looked up, what does a costume designer do? And it's like she draws the characters, she sews, she could sew. You don't always have to sew, but you design. And I felt like I have that skill set. I can do this. And so before long, I was known on campus as the costume designer. I was doing the step shows. We recreated Michael Jackson's Thriller. I mean, it was crazy. I hardly went to class. I shouldn't say that, but I loved it. I fell in love with it, and I realized that I could play all the parts, not just one. I could create a color palette that people would enjoy on stage. I could sit back in the audience and look at my work play out. And so I thank my mother for pushing that sewing machine in my room, because that's really where it started. Yep, that's it.
Shout out to the moms and the dads and the parents. So when audiences watch your work decades from now, what do you hope they understand about this moment in Black cultural storytelling?
That we shifted the paradigm. That what I saw coming up, roots and other things that were a construct of what another maybe culture thought of what our origin story is or was. When we got the camera or the needle, we were able to shift the paradigm. Because if you remember when Black Panther came out, everyone was in celebration of seeing Africa represented and actually seeing themselves and having a superhero. So I hope that when you look back at my work long after I'm gone, that you see someone who was a part of a big shift in the film world, in filmmaking, in representation, someone who loved their community and loved their craft.
One more question. You said, and I quote, "Simply trust the journey. and you will find yourself the artist. What does this message mean for emerging and aspiring artists who are still trying to find their voice and place in a creative world?
Yeah, you have to trust the journey, and by that I mean something you produce may not be perfect. Like I produced that denim blazer for Tommy, and he loved it, but it was imperfect. If you trust the journey and you realize that what's burning inside of you, that flame that really wants to learn something and wants to be something, that's the part that's perfect. It's that part inside of you that represents the journey you're about to embark on. It's not always represented in every single thing you produce because you're learning. So you might say to yourself, is that any good? Do people like it? I hate it. That's okay. That's the journey you're on. You have to trust that flame that's going to burn to a fire inside of you. And each time you get another opportunity to show your work, it's going to burn even brighter. And that you'll produce more and more. And it will resonate with other people because you're coming from a real passionate place inside of you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you. So we're going to open it up for question and answers, just a few. Anyone? Hold on just a second. Let me come around. So sorry.
So you've seen Black Panther more than one time. That means you have questions. How many of you saw Sinners? Yes, so you got questions, I'm sure.
Hi.
Hi.
Your book ends at Wakanda Forever. Is there a chance that we'll see a part 2 with Sinners and on?
I would like to. We just did not expect Sinners to be this big. We made it in New Orleans, in the bayou. There were alligators and mosquitoes. All I wanted to do was go back to the hotel and recover from being up all night. And then we released it. And Sinners is a love letter to Ryan Coogler's Uncle James. So there's a lot to say about that film. And every time I look at some evaluation or somebody's critique or whatever of Sinners, I'm always amazed at what people extract from it. So I'd love to do that. There was only 12 films represented in this book, and I have done, 60? Yeah, one day.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Malia Ford. I'm a costumer who had the pleasure of working with Ruth. I worked as a set costumer on Dolomite. Ruth is always professional, always kind. I learned so much from her, and I'm grateful to have had the experience. And I have a question for you. Once you read the script, what is your process like? What do you do next after you read the script?
Once I read the script, I read it again. And when I read it again, I'm looking for details. And, it's funny. When you read a script and you don't know what's coming up, you're reading it to go on the journey. When you go back and you read it again, you're kind of actually looking at things that set you up for the next thing. So you can actually evaluate what you want to do with it the second time you read it more than the first time. It's like the first time you're surprised, like, whoa, I didn't know there would be a crash. Now you know there's a crash. And so you're reading up to it and you say to yourself, how can I enhance the story because there's going to be an event in the next couple of pages. So you're also thinking more about color when you go back into it. The story takes you on a journey, but you want to just enjoy the journey. You just want to read it like a book. The second time you're working. So now you're dissecting it into acts. Is there 3 acts? Are there 4 acts? Where's the climax? You're actually doing that thing. And then I read it again. And this time I'm reading it and I'm making notes. So I will study the time frame. I will look up the history of the people. I want to know the socioeconomics of the time. What were the people going through? With Sinners, it was all about sharecroppers. And the blues, the creation of the blues. Here's some people that made something out of nothing. They had nothing. They were totally disenfranchised. So every time I revisit the story and the script, I have another intention and it gives me something else.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Hi, Miss Ruth Carter. Oh, okay. My name is Kayla Anthony. I love you so much. I'm 25. And I have a very simple question. From the beginning of your journey up until now, what is one special costume design that is near and dear to your heart?
Near and dear to my heart, there's a few. I gotta say, but maybe I'll narrow it down to two. The Zoot Suits and Malcolm X. Those are near and dear to my heart. Because I didn't have a sample when I created them. I had to go into the men's tailoring books and understand like all of the measurements of the pants, how high they were at the waist, how narrow they were at the ankle, how big the hats were, and everything. And so I feel like when we made the Zoot Suits for Malcolm X, that I actually recreated a part of history. And the Dora Milaje for all the reasons I told you earlier.
Good afternoon, Ms. Carter. Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Carmen Evelyn, and thank you so much for being here. I have one question. I have a lot of questions. I just found out that you're from Virginia today, and when I think about that, I also think about a woman named Elizabeth Keckley, who was
Elizabeth who?
Elizabeth Keckley. She was America's first couturier. She was born in 1818 at the height of the Civil War, and she became the first appointed dressmaker to First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln. She became a freedom fighter, and she used her dressmaking. She's a self-taught dressmaker like you, and she used her dressmaking as a platform to help free her people. She worked alongside people like Frederick Douglass, and got the support from Abraham Lincoln. She was in his ear. She became Mrs. Lincoln's best friend. I'm thinking about you in this way because many, many years ago, Elizabeth Keckley could not have predicted the impact that she would have had in fashion and in history, in shaping the history of this country. And in so many ways, I feel that you are a living, breathing change maker. And I feel that decades from now, we're going to look at you and read about you the same way that I read about Elizabeth Keckley.
Oh my God.
So my question to you is, I'm so emotional about this. My question to you is, do you feel that when you're designing, you have that ancestral connection, that connective tissue?
Yeah, I do. Because I wasn't the first. I got the honor of being called the first to win the Oscar for costume design, the first to be nominated. But I was not the first. So I feel like those people who were the first, who trailblazed, they set the stage for me. And I just can't help but be connected to my ancestry because I study it all the time. And people like Ann Lowe also, they sacrificed a lot for people like me to succeed. So I'm just carrying it's like a relay race, you know what? There's another person coming that's going to take the baton and take it all the way to the end. So I do feel the strength of my ancestors.
Thank you so much. I feel like I'm Hi, I'm Chris Florboy. I'm so happy to see you here. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, is this a little bit better? My question has to do with museums, and I'm wondering if you've ever done any kind of consultation or curatorial work, or if there is something on the horizon in that realm.
a good question. I have an exhibition. It's since 2019 when Black Panther came out. I realized because I'm a theater person and theater people save stuff. And because they never have budget, so they think, oh, we're going to need those shirts for another play. And when I came into film, and I was at Spike Lee's office every time, I would save the stuff from the last film, and I'd put it away in his basement, and we'd come back the next year to do another movie. And I'd go in the basement looking for the stuff I saved, and it would be gone. And I'd say, where's that stuff? And Spike's assistant was like, yeah, Spike said get rid of it. So I decided to save it myself. So when we did Zoot Suits for Malcolm X, I saved them. When we did The Butler, I saved costumes. We did Summer of Sam. I asked him if I could have the costumes at the end. So I saved them. And then another assistant out here, she looked in my storage. She said, you have an exhibition. So we put together an exhibition, and it's been traveling around the country since 2019. It's been at 7 museums now. It's in Philadelphia at the African American Museum in Philadelphia, and until September, and then it will go on to another place. Hopefully it'll end up here one day. Yeah, one day, sign up. But yeah, there you go.
Hi Ruth, I'm Morgan. We met briefly a long time ago on the set of Roots. That was my first production job, so this feels like a full circle moment for me. Thank you for being here. I wanted to ask you, how was your experience working with Tiana Taylor for the Met Ball for the
my God.
Black Indianism theme?
Did you guys see the Met Gala?
Yes.
Tiana, she drove me crazy, y'all. First, I need a hat. Then I need a do-rag. I want a zoot suit, but I want a cape. The cape's got to be long all the way out the door. I want a flower. I want a pin. What about the chain? We need a chain coming out of the pocket. We had everything, and it was hard because it rained like cats and dogs in New York that day, and we were finishing up that costume in the hotel room. And Tiana, she's just really a professional. She's a real pro. She loves to collaborate, and she really does have great ideas. I don't want to be on my own island. I want you to, you're the one who's wearing it. So I really want you to feel good in it. And if you have an idea, I want you to be able to feel the freedom to tell me what your idea is, and then I'll make it happen. So it was wonderful. She was the Harlem Rose. We wore red. I had to watch her the whole day because we created a necktie out of metal, and it was so fragile. I was like, every time she laughed, I was like, I was holding my breath. But it worked out, and it was a lot of fun. Her and I both felt like it was a big success for us that day. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Ruth. I'm Ambry. So nice to see you again. I came to see you when you did a meet and greet at the Beverly Center.
Okay.
I've been working in celebrity, and in 2022 I started PAing, and then there was just a lot of changes, and I just sometimes feel like it's just a white guys club trying to get in the union. So what would be your advice for someone trying to move up?
Yeah. You have to connect to the costume houses and tell them that, you'll, work 2 days a week, 1 day a week. You're trying to get your hours, and the costume house is the place that people work for 30 days, and then they get into it's a catch-22. This is how they kept us out. So it's not easy, and I understand your plight. Also, study the costume designers that you admire, the stylists that you admire. Well, Wayman and Micah, Jason Bolden. Huh?
I'm done with the stylists.
Okay, done with them. Then study the costume designers that you like. Get some postcards done. Look, somebody just, I don't know, I put them in my car, gave me painted postcards from the desk of Ruth Carter. There you go. You got to give them out.
And that's not but free.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You'll get there. Don't stop. Don't stop. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Ruth. My name's Theo. I'm here with my friend who we're both in the film industry, and so we admire a lot of your work. I wanted to say in particular, though, I'm South African as well. So I'm sure you've heard this before from a lot of people and like from
Give it
African
to me.
nations, but it's like Black Panther was a very monumental movie for
Yes, it
South
was.
Africans. Sorry.
Yes, it was.
It was very monumental, but it was specifically because of the costume design and because of full work and the art that you put into that. And I think my question is more in lines of, there's a big conversation right now in Hollywood about representation and the best ways in which we can have those conversations and the best ways in which we can present that in the art that we make. So I wanted to ask, especially because you were so monumental in creating the artwork and the costume design for Black Panther, how important is that process for you, and specifically what was your process in trying to get to reflect those cultures in the costume
Yeah,
design?
of course. Our history didn't start at enslavement. It started in Africa, and the African diaspora, or it's not just the African American diaspora. So that's where I draw my inspiration. Once I know that there are thousands of tribes throughout Africa, thousands, and we just picked 12 of them to represent in Black Panther. And the way that those 12 tribes were represented was so multi-layered in terms of art and science and history and aesthetics and adornment. You can travel down any one of those roads and learn more about yourself. So those are the roads I choose to travel on, and those are the conversations that I love to have when I talk about and Sinners, how Annie practiced hoodoo and Ifa and what those things meant. When she was a person in the community, you couldn't just go to the doctor when you were sick. They wouldn't let you in. There was no doctor. It was the community that took care of each other. And she was a part of that community, and she was a healer. So you can't disconnect the African American experience from the African experience, because it got through. Even though there was a lot of erasure going on, even though we were told we couldn't come together, we came together. So those little inroads are the things that actually connect us, because we don't know enough about ourselves here in this country to understand that connection. So it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Thank you so much for that. And just another little tag on. Thank you so much for that work. And I'm telling you, having been in South Africa when the movie came out, we were celebrating it specifically.
You guys were doing it right. You were the Zulus. Were going to the theater with the drums.
Yeah,
I saw it.
It was a cultural event, completely cultural event, and that was a lot thanks to specifically the wardrobe. So thank you for that.
You guys, we're gonna take about 4 more, and then we're gonna start the book signing. We don't want to order too long. You do?
I do, but I don't remember from where.
I used to follow you around whenever you had were on a panel. I was like, yeah, I'm there.
I know you.
I appreciate you for being this vibe. Okay, so I have so many questions. Let me get. Okay.
Take your time.
So the first one is, I saw an interview that you did maybe like 10 years ago. I saw an interview that you did, and you had mentioned The Shape of Water.
Yeah.
And you said how much you enjoyed it, and you said, how come I don't get a movie like that?
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to know, like, what did you really love about it, and have you gotten a movie like that since?
Yeah, I would say it was Sinners.
Okay.
And that's because The Shape of Water, they used green. They had a serious color palette. If you go back and look at that film, there was this medicinal looking green that they used everywhere. The clothes, the walls, everything was green. And I was like, wow, like to be able to achieve that color balance is something that I think color theory is something that you study as an artist, and you never feel like you nailed it. You know, it's never going to feel like that. And The Shape of Water was Guillermo del Toro, who does monster movies, and I just thought it was just a love story, and it was creative, and it captured me. It's like when you're a kid and you read a good book. It felt like that for me. And then with Sinners, we were able to create an American palette of red, white, and blue. So when you look at Sinners in the beginning, it's very blue. The sky, the walls, the clothes. I used a lot of blue, and it's very blue and open in the beginning. And it opens up also with the church and everyone in the church in white. So we start white, we go to blue, and then by the time we get to the juke joint, it's very red. So I feel like I'll never be completely satisfied that I nailed it, but that was the kind of color work that I saw in The Shape of Water that I wanted to bring into my film.
Okay. Last question. Speaking to the painter in you, if you were to paint one of your happiest memories, what would it look like? What would be the colors, the strokes, all of that?
Oh my God. Okay, I think it's my my dress on Easter Sunday, even though my mother had braided my hair so tight and put bows in it and stuff. I would say the little blue dress I wore with my white basket that on Easter Sunday, I would paint that.
Hi, my name is Diane. I know you kind of talked about your process a little bit already, but I want to know like what elements you kind of add into your designs that you look for to make a design, and then when do you feel like, okay, that's enough, like I don't need to add anything else, like this is the costume.
Yeah, I want to go back to Rosewood to answer your question, because I pulled up James Van Der Zee. You know, he did all those portraits. And I really wanted the people to just like leap off the page. I couldn't get enough of the research. But there comes a point where you got to stop the research, rely on your subconscious that you got it, always keep it around you so you can refer to it, because you're never going to be perfect just off of your brain alone. And on Selma, I went to the front of the line when they were marching across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and I had an Ebony magazine with the marchers, and I was like, okay, you move up here, you move back there. Oh, the guy with the hat, he's got to go all the way to the back. So there's like this passion, you know, you're always going to be a student of your passion, and you got to keep your passion around you. If it's books, you got to keep the books around you. I have a little library on my wardrobe truck all the time because I'm referring to it. When I did Sparkle, I had color palettes that I pulled out of fashion magazines, and I was like, oh, I love the way the burgundy and the light blue works together. So when I'm putting together, even though it's a period piece, I'm reminding myself of some of these interesting color combinations, and I'm using my references. I keep my references around me all the time. Even the great painters, if you look in their ateliers, in their studios, you see all kinds of stuff on the wall. They're referencing what inspires them, and they're keeping them around. So that's what you have to do. Keep your inspiration alive and keep it around you. Okay?
It's an honor to meet you.
Same here.
My name is Dolores.
Hi.
I'm a writer.
Oh,
I wrote a musical.
okay.
Set in mid-1950s Harlem.
1950s Harlem. Yeah.
And guess who's at the top of my list with designing the costumes?
I can't imagine. Who could that be? Thank you.
I just wanted to come and meet you. I actually wasn't still not feeling 100%.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get on the freeway
Yep.
and go because
Thank you for coming. Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna give you my card.
Okay.
When I raise the $12 million,
Okay.
Broadway.
Okay. Don't wait for 12 million. You can do it for less.
But you will hear from me.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to meet you. Look at this outfit. I love it. Yes, represent.
Considering you come from a time like where you had to like really work to get your name out, like,
Yeah.
And then there's this digital crossover, like where the expectations, or the goalposts kind of move. How do you keep yourself like motivated during like dark times, or what would you say to somebody that's trying to stay inspired even when the fire is burning, and then you're feeling like this digital world, or like sometimes you be on projects where you're not getting the right, there's no budget, or maybe they may not be the right recognition for you. Like, where did you draw the motivation to stay like going? Because there was times where y'all had to just fall. Like,
Did I tell you I did Black Dynamite? What's that donut place with the big donut on the top of it? He had a guy in a donut costume, and that was an independent film. And I got a electric knife and a big piece of styrofoam or foam rubber, and I shaped that donut in my backyard. I didn't know how he was going to wear it, but it was written in the script that he rolls around, tumbles. You never see Black Dynamite. That donut is in it. That donut gave me such a hard time. But you know what? You push through times like that. You have to push through times like that. I did, with Robert Townsend, I did Meteor Man. People think Black Panther was my first superhero, but it was Meteor Man. And I had to come up with a costume that was a gadget. He had 2 Polaroid cameras on his shoulder. And I made that thing. You have to push through dark times. They cannot stop you. It doesn't feel good. It actually feels impossible. But you get on the other side of it, and it's a beautiful feeling. So don't be afraid of AI. Embrace it. Use it as a tool. Just keep pushing through. Okay.
Hi, Ruth. I'm Jasmine. Nice to meet you. It's an honor. So I'm a huge nerd. Yes, I love just sci-fi, media, comics, all that good stuff. And I know you've done a lot of superhero movies too. So how do you keep your whimsy alive? Like, what nerdy material? Do you look at anything, read anything to keep you inspired?
Yeah, I have a stack of books. I'm always trying to read. I'm always trying to carve out time to read all kinds of things. I haven't finished researching Sinners, even though the movie is out. I'm still reading the books about Jim Crow, because I'm now obsessed. And I just got Asada Sakura's book, and I love to read about us. I always think you gain more from the written word than you do from pictures, because you really don't know what you're looking at until you read about it. So, yeah, I'm a little bit obsessive with the reading thing. I can only get like maybe 10 pages in every couple of days because I'm distracted by all kinds of stuff. But I think if you keep your focus and you carve out a little time all the time, you can actually get through some of those things that you want to do that seem to have nothing to do, but they will have something to do with your work. So that's just what forms you and what makes you.
Thank you.
Hello, designer Carter.
Hello, hello.
I followed you since Spike Lee,
You
the
have?
first one, and you have been so inspirational to me and my family because my family wanted me to be a nurse, and they didn't know, wow, where did you get that from? All of that. But you gave me such inspiration, and I want to thank you for pushing through. And I have 140 students that will see your video on Tuesday, and books, because I bought many. But I wrote a book, and I wanted to give you a copy of my
Thank you.
book.
Wow, we'll sell it at BAAP. Photography, fashion design, fabulous. Thank you.
And I want to know, since we have so many obstacles that come in our way, my students want to know what was your lowest point? I know it was many, but a good one that hit you, and then how did you get over that point?
Okay, I'll tell you quickly. I had never done a superhero film before. I didn't really know why Marvel had me into their office to do Black Panther, because I'd never done a superhero film before. When I met Ryan, I said, I realized I had something to offer this young, graduate from USC Film School. And I went on to put our department together, and Tanja's here, she was part of that department. Say hi, put your hand up, Tanja. There she is, now she's a costume designer herself. But half of my crew, not Tanja, walked off to do Batman Superman. And I didn't see it coming. And there were some of the most important departments that walked off and said, no one had ever heard of Black Panther before. It was this black movie, I'm sorry to say. And half my crew left. When we were supposed to be transitioning to Atlanta to start shooting, I had half the amount of crew. And if you've ever been in trauma, because that was a little bit traumatic for me, you feel like you're walking on air, like the ground is not below you anymore. And everyone I called to fill in those slots, they didn't want to come on. They did not want to come on to the film. So I one day got called by Paul Simmons, who is a guy in Atlanta, and he was finishing a film, and he was about to send his kit to his home in South Carolina, and I said, Paul, I need you, man. I need you to come on to Black Panther. And then I won the Oscar. So, the moral is, don't stop. One monkey don't stop, no show. And Larry Steele is here. He was also in our department. Say hi, Larry. He was our asset manager. He made sure that everything we bought was logged in. So yeah, that was a really scary point, and I was ashamed that happened to me. I didn't want people to say, oh, you can't do this. This is bigger than you. It's a Marvel film. You're not ready for this. But Paul and I, we galvanized and we did it.
Well, your reward was great. Thank you so much.
We're in the finals now, so the people who are in line already are.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with these two. Whoever's in the chairs, we're gonna form a line around here.